And what this means is, it's a philosophical and ontological idea, which is either there's this idea that there's this absolute stuff of energy, and we know how energy behaves, and we know how it converts and how it becomes matter, and we understand a lot about energy. So one can take a philosophical position that energy is this inexplainable stuff other than how it behaves. It's not information, but information describes it. That's one position that can be taken. The second choice is that one can say, no, it's not just that information describes energy in physics. It's that reality itself is literally made of information. And that's interesting, because that is suggesting that reality is this abstract stuff. Now, the interesting thing is that those who say that energy is something other than information and merely described by information, they really have no suggestion as to what this energy is made of. If they want to start there and say that that is the axiomatic ground. An axiom is something that you cannot prove. It's just your philosophical starting point in a mathematical proof or a physical theory. And others want to say, well, no, we know how to describe information. We know what it is, and we want to say that energy is information. That's simpler. That's what the mathematics tells us. That is the Occam's razor approach. It's more elegant. It's more straightforward. It's less enigmatic. It has more explanatory power. So here at Quantum Gravity Research, we take this more simple approach, this more straightforward approach that many people are taking nowadays, which is that reality is made of information. So, what is information? Well, information can be described as meaning. We're going to have to explain what that means, but it can be described as meaning conveyed by symbolism, right? So if you have some physical system in a dimensional space, like the volume and the behavior of a hydrogen atom, a lot of that is geometric information. There's the waveform in the electromagnetic spectrum. There's the waveform of the probability plot from quantum mechanics, which is an elliptical form. And then there's the volume of it. There's everything about physics is geometric in one way or another. So then we can conjecture that the meaning of this information is the physical structure itself. In other words, what is the meaning of a square? Well, one can say, Ray Oshheimer says. So hopefully you have already realized that there's an interesting problem here. If meaning and language and symbolism always relates to a chooser selecting the symbols, whether that be a bird language or a computer code, then you might be wondering, well, how can reality at the smallest scale be a language? Who would recognize the meaning of the symbols? Who would choose the syntactical freedom in the language? And so that's an interesting problem. Nobel laureate Frank Wilczek said, the relevant literature, and he was talking about the meaning of quantum theory, is famously contentious and obscure. I believe it will remain so until someone constructs, within the formalism of quantum mechanics, an observer that is a model entity whose states correspond to a recognizable character of conscious awareness. And Andre Lin, co-pioneer of inflationary Big Bang theory, said, will it not turn out, with the further development of science, that the study of the universe and the study of consciousness will be inseparably linked, and that ultimate progress in the one will be impossible without progress in the other? One of the last titans of physics, John Wheeler, said, the physical world has at bottom, a very deep bottom in most instances, an immaterial source and explanation. That which we call reality arises in the last analysis from the posing of yes or no questions. All things physical are information theoretic in origin, and this is a participatory universe. So we're conjecturing here. This is about plausible ideas, and even when a plausible idea seems fantastical, like the idea of the Big Bang, or a very popular idea being discussed now, even in academic level physics, that reality is actually a simulation in some computer in another universe. These ideas need to be seriously questioned, critically thought about, and not thrown out the window just because they seem outrageous, as the Big Bang itself seemed absolutely outrageous at one point. So let us then discuss how in the world there can possibly be a language as the substrate of reality without some notion of a chooser in the language and an actualizer of the meaning of these geometric symbols, because there needs to be something to interpret or actualize meaning in order to say that information exists. Now, if we like, we can just say, well, we'd like to start with the axiom that God exists. But that's not what science is about. Science is about going deeper and constantly questioning where that comes from and going all the way down to the bottom. So God may or may not exist, but if he does, I want to know, how does he exist? And so we don't need to make it religious. We can say, all right, well, abstractly, maybe there's this kind of universal collective consciousness. It's not like a human consciousness. Maybe it's more like the Force in Star Wars. Maybe it's more like Qi in Chinese medicine. We don't know what it's like, but we need something that is everywhere and that may be the substrate of everything and that is capable of actualizing this geometric information that we conjecture and making the syntactical choices in this mosaic tiling language in 3D that we are working with here at Quantum Gravity Research. So, what do we know about the universe? How does it behave? Well, everybody can agree that emergence is the name of the game. Quarks and electrons self-organize into 81 stable atoms. Those 81 atoms self-organize into countless chemical compounds, including the proteins necessary for life, DNA. single-celled organisms emerge eventually in a biosphere, and then groups of single-celled organisms, each specializing in a different function.